Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back in the video day, and today we're going to be talking about what the Houston Rockets offseason plan should be after landing the 4th overall pick in the 2023 NBA Draft Lottery, as the Rockets are sitting this year going into the 2023 NBA Draft with the 4th overall pick in this year's draft, and as well as the 20th overall pick in this year's draft. So let's get into what the Rockets should do with, what they have right now. Should they trade the 4th overall pick? That's going to be something we get into, which I ultimately think this is something the Rockets should do. And let's get into it. So I'm going to start with trades. I think the first thing you have to talk about is trading the 4th overall pick. I think it is something the Rockets need to do. They're seriously interested in bringing in James Harden. If James Harden's going to come in and you're not so sure about drafting a prospect with the 4th overall pick and you'd actually like to move, the 4th overall pick for win-now players, I think in that case, when it sounds like that, I think, honestly, you should probably end up moving the 4th overall pick. And we're going to take it back to, the team that, you originally traded James Harden to, the Brooklyn Nets. We're going to be talking about, we're talking about the whole offseason for the Rockets, but this trade I'm talking about here is a trade that would land the Rockets, I guess, a second star next to James Harden, because I do think ultimately the Rockets signed James Harden. So James Harden is on the roster in the offseason plan. James Harden is on the team. Jalen Green, Alperen Sengun, and Jabari Smith Jr. are our young stars. Jabari at 19 or 20. I think Jabari's 20 now. Jalen at 20 or 21. Sengun at, I think, about to be 20 years old. All these guys really young. Those are our young stars. These are a little bit of older stars. Bridges is around 26, 27 years old. Harden's 33 years old. There you go, Bridges. I'm going to be talking about a trade that the Rockets would send the 4th overall pick for Mikal Bridges. It's a huge deal. The Rockets would send Kevin Porter Jr., Kenyon Martin Jr., Jae'Sean Tate, the 4th overall pick, and also, with that, the Rockets' 2024 first-round pick, and the Rockets would get back Mikal Bridges, Dorian Finney-Smith, who had a really decent season with the Mavericks and the Nets, mainly played really good with the Nets last year, struggled with the Mavericks, but played good with the Nets. He was a part of that Kyrie Irving trade that sent Kyrie to Dallas. He was included with Spencer Dinwiddie in that first-round pick in that deal, and average 8.5 points per game, a really solid defender and a good shooter. So you get Dorian Finney-Smith, you get Mikal Bridges, and you get the 21st pick in the 2022 draft. So you get Bridges, Finney-Smith, and the 21st pick. You give up KPJ, KJ Martin, Jae'Sean Tate, the 4th overall pick, and your 2024 first-round pick. As much as it sounds, like really bad to give up your first-round pick when the Rockets have been so bad, the last couple of years, I don't think it is bad to give up your first-round pick in this case, because in a roster where James Harden, where the lineup is James Harden, Jalen Green, and Mikal Bridges, and Jabari Smith Jr., and Alperen Sengun, I do not view that as a bad team at all. So I think it would be okay to give up your first-round pick. A team like that with Harden, Green, Bridges, Jabari Smith Jr., and Alperen Sengun should be a playoff team. I mean, it works well. And I said yesterday in a video, I'd rather the Rockets trade for Mikal Bridges than Jaylen Brown. And I'm totally honest about that. Because I think if James Harden's going to come back and the Rockets are going to trade for a young star, I actually think the Rockets would play better team basketball with Mikal Bridges than they would Jaylen Brown. I think Jaylen Brown, one of the reasons why he wants to leave Boston is because he wants the ball in his hands. And I don't think that's going to work in Houston. James is going to want to come back here because he wants to score more. He's been letting Embiid and Maxey doing a lot of the scoring, and his averages and his points have been going down. I think he wants to come back here. Number one, he misses Houston. I think he also, he's the ball's in his hands a lot, but I think he wants to be able to shoot the ball more, kind of like he did here. I don't think he's going to be able to shoot as much as he did when he was here, but I think he wants to be able to have the ball more in his hands than it was in Philly and be able to score and shoot more than he did in Philly. And that's something that I don't think Jaylen Brown's going to be okay with. And I don't think Jaylen Brown and James Harden will work out together. And then if Jaylen Brown and James Harden are always, the ball's always in their hands, what about your young guys like Jalen Green and Jabari Smith Jr., and Alperen Sengun? The ball is barely in their hands in that case. I think Bridges, yes, he likes the ball, but, he can go a game only scoring 12, 15 points if Jalen Green's going to go off. Bridges is usually going to get you around 20 to 27, even with Harden in the lineup. But if Jalen is feeling it, or Jabari's feeling it, or Sengun's feeling it, Bridges will, stick to playing good defense and not let the other guys get hot. Something that I think that's one of the reasons why Jaylen Brown wants out of Houston. I do not see. I think most likely. I think the better team fit. Jaylen Brown is the better player than Mikal Bridges, which I think with the way he's, I think if Mikal Bridges keeps going, up like he did in Brooklyn, if he keeps playing better and better, I think that Mikal Bridges could eventually start to be an all-star, no matter where he plays, and I think that's how talented he is, and he's the talent he's turned into, And he was really solid in Phoenix, but Devin Booker always had the basketball, and so did Chris Paul. Didn't score as much as he did in Brooklyn. But I think with Houston, I think he'd just excel. And the Rockets have a lot of interest. They had a lot of, the Rockets. They were talking in the day after the KD trade happened, and Brooklyn received Cam Johnson and Mikal Bridges. Even though the Rockets were terrible, the Rockets were interested in potentially trading for Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson. The deal never got worked out, which I'm glad it didn't in the time, because Cam Johnson was a free agent that year. It would have made no sense for the Rockets, and the Rockets would have had to given up a bunch, and eventually the Rockets adding in Mikal Bridges and Cam Johnson would start to win some basketball games, and it would hurt where they would be in the lottery, which that didn't really do that well for us because we only ended up with the 4th overall pick. But ultimately, I'm glad the Rockets didn't make that trade. But it's the offseason. You got the 4th overall pick. You failed at getting Wemby. I think it's time to make the right trade. I think Mikal Bridges, Dorian Finney-Smith, and the 21st overall pick would be the right trade for the Rockets. Now, let's talk about what the Rockets do with the draft. You're sitting there. If that trade happens with Bridges, you have the 21st pick. You have the 20th pick. I don't know what you do with the 2nd pick that you get in the Brooklyn trade. Maybe you move it. I have no idea. But I do think that with the 20th overall pick, we should select Drew Lively, the second, who is a 7'1" center, I think from Kentucky. I think that's right. Averaged 10 points in this season in college and had 9.8 rebounds per game. Really solid center. I think the Rockets are looking to get a decent backup center. I think that in the draft, that would be a really nice option. Now, I don't know what you do with the 21st overall pick or who do you get. I haven't, done that of a deep search in this year's draft to look at what we could maybe do at 21 if that trade happens with Brooklyn. But, we'll see what that would happen. Now, free agency. I think with the rotation kind of, the backup, obviously you got James, Jalen, Bridges, Jabari, and Sengun as the starting lineup. The bench is a little full. You got Dorian Finney-Smith and Tari Eason coming off the bench. And I think you'd need with maybe Josh Christopher trying to be replaced. I think Josh Christopher would stay on the roster, but I think the Rockets would want to get an improvement. The Rockets have a little bit of cap space to sign a free agent or two. I think the Rockets should sign a backup point guard, and I think a good fit would be Gabe Vincent of the Miami Heat, who's been going off in the playoffs this year. Averaged 9.5 points per game this year. A good shooter, but I think you might have to give up a lot, but I think, you might have to give him a decent contract, but I think he's worth it. He's an excellent shooter. He steps up for you, and I think he'd be fantastic for the Rockets. And honestly, that's the only free agent signing I've really came up with for the Rockets. So in that case, here's what the rotation for the Rockets would look like with my offseason plan. James Harden at the starting point guard, Jalen Green at the starting shooting guard, Mikal Bridges at the starting small forward, then the starting power forward, Jabari Smith Jr., the starting center, Alperen Sengun, and then the sixth man, Dorian Finney-Smith, the seventh man, Tari Eason, the eighth man, Gabe Vincent, the ninth man, Drew Lively, the 10th man, Ty Washington, and then the players off your deep rotation, Ty Washington, whoever you select with the 21st overall pick, and as the 11th man, and then the 12th man, Usman Garuba, 12th man, Josh Christopher, 13th man, Usman Garuba. So I guess that would be the rotation for the Rockets next year with my offseason plan. And I think everything would work out for the Rockets. I think they would be a playoff team in the Western Conference with that team, most likely. And if not, play-in team. But I think it'd be a really good move for the Rockets, and we'll see if maybe the Rockets do stuff. Maybe not all that's going to happen, but I think the Harden and Bridges moves are definitely possible. Both of those happening. Maybe Drew Lively is definitely possible. I doubt Gabe Vincent might happen. That could happen, but we'll see. And I think that's a decent team for the Rockets coming off of where they were last year. And you guys let me know your thoughts on my offseason plan for the Rockets. And peace out. Go Rockets.